my whole aim in life is to never get outside that sort of top 3 famous Belfast actors list, because
are there rankings that move around? Do you like check the current rankings day by day?
Yeah, it's usually, between Liam Neeson and me hopping back and forth depending on what releases we have, But if I drop out of that top 3, I'm screwed, because that is how they cast movies.
Prepare your ears, humans. Happy, Sad, Confused begins now.
I'm Josh Horowitz. Today on Happy, Sad, Confused, it's Jamie Dornan in a special rewind episode of Happy, Sad, Confused, from 50 Shades of Grey to Belfast and so much more. Hey guys, thanks so much for joining me as always. This is a bonus episode of Happy, Sad, Confused. If you're watching on YouTube, you see my adorable dog, Lucy, in the background. She's a big fan of Jamie Dornan's. Everybody is. We thought, with the new film out on Netflix getting a bajillion views, Heart of Stone, the big, ginormous action spy thriller with Gal Gadot and Jamie Dornan, it was a great opportunity to bring back this conversation with Jamie on the podcast feed and on YouTube if you're watching, for the first time making this video available for everybody. Very few people have seen the video form of this conversation, so finally, once and for all, you can enjoy this long-form chat with the delightful Jamie Dornan. This is a great career chat. It is obviously, as I said, it's a rewind episode, so taped way before the strike. This was in fact taped about a year and a half ago when Belfast was on everybody's mind, that delicious performance in that great film from Kenneth Branagh. We talk a lot about Belfast, Caitriona Balfe, Jamie's beginnings, the actors he came up with, from Eddie Redmayne to Andrew Garfield, 50 Shades of Grey, that time he almost got in there to play Superman. It's a great chat with one of my favorites, the delightful Jamie Dornan. And like I said, it felt like a good opportunity to revisit a rare long-form conversation with Jamie while you're all binging his latest giant action movie on Netflix, Heart of Stone. Before I toss to the main conversation, remember, review, rate, subscribe to Happy, Sad, Confused wherever you get your podcasts, on Spotify or wherever. If you're on YouTube, click on that like, subscribe button. Make sure you don't miss a chat. We've got a great one coming up later this week. I'll say it right now. We have David Harbour coming up in a brand new conversation that's fantastic. Lots more coming in the future weeks. Filmmakers, and hopefully some actors when we get into festival season. The SAG strike continues as we tape this, but we're hoping there's some dispensation for actors to do some press in particular circumstances. So anyway, let's get to the main event. For those that never have heard or seen this conversation, this is a good one with one of the most charming Irish gentlemen I know. Please enjoy my conversation circa January 2022 with the one and only Jamie Dornan.
Finally, at long last, Jamie Dornan. Jamie, I don't know what, I guess this is the price you pay for being in a classy movie, is you finally have to do the podcast. Welcome to Happy, Sad, Confused, buddy.
Thank you. I am delighted to be here.
He is well hydrated. He just showed off his 4 chocolate biscuits that I've never wished my hand could reach through a screen more than right now.
I'm going to start with the first chocolate biscuit right now.
Are you one of these people that just genetically can eat anything they want and they will never put on the weight? Good call on shoving a biscuit in your mouth as the podcast started.
And we're off. I'm someone who would struggle to put on weight, and I know to many people that's not an affliction, but I find it to be having someone who always played a lot of sport, particularly as a kid, and often played. My main sport was rugby, where you needed to be bigger, and I always felt like the skinny kid who couldn't do it, even though I played well, but I always felt that was holding me back. So it's always bothered me that I can't put on weight, and I'm still a bit like that now. I guess not most people, 99.9% of people find it very lucky to have fast metabolism stuff, and I've always not liked it.
Well, look, I'll take any kind of self-loathing I can get. I mean, if it's the other direction from me, that's okay, as long as there is loathing and a feeling of inadequacy, then I'm good.
Yeah, good. Well, then you're covered with this.
So, congratulations on Belfast for the gajillionth time. I assume this doesn't get old, but look, you've been in every kind of project, every kind of reviews in your career, every kind of like good, bad, medium accolades. But this is the one that I feel like, you know, we're always chasing. Actors are always chasing. This is the one that like really checks all the boxes. Does it feel like in some ways this is kind of like, oh yeah, this is what I've been kind of like racing after for 15, 20 years?
Yeah, sort of, you know, it's kind of like you sort of don't know what it's going to be. Yeah, look, it's easy to say that now because of the response, but like, yeah, let's look at it like from the beginnings of like the origins of it, like being sent the script, being told it's Kenneth Branagh writing and directing it. It's Dame Judi Dench is playing your mother, Kieran Hines playing your dad, Caitriona Balfe is playing your wife. I only knew about one of it. I only knew about Judi Dench at the beginning when it came to me. That alone is enough to be like, oh Jesus, you know, this might be something, you know, hopefully it is. The script's incredible. If we get this right, it could really be something. But even then, you never know. You know, I've had situations where I felt brilliant about something on set and then, you know, it had love, but maybe not the love we were expecting, whatever it is. So with hindsight, maybe it's easier to say because there has been so much love for this. But you know, I've always, you know, your job is so much easier if you've got good words to say and a good director. I mean, it's as simple as that, you know, and I feel that that's what's happened here, you know, and it's happened a few times before for me, but, you know, I think I always kind of live by that Peter O'Toole quote of great words make great actors, you know, and
Yep.
I think if you've got to a certain level, you're obviously got something to offer, and then so that when those good opportunities come your way, you know, you take them and hope that people respond.
Well, and as you well know, it's so much is out of the control, even if you make the great film that you're so proud of, for any number of 1,000 reasons, the wrong distributor, the wrong time, whatever, no one ever sees it. So like, again, this one just thankfully resonated at the festivals, found an audience, continues to find an audience. So it's just blessing upon blessing, I would think.
Yeah, it was just a combination of all those things, and timing being everything, and
Yeah.
your timing being everything from, you know, even as simple as like me being Ken, the lockdown happening and him giving him the space to write a story that's based on his life that's been in his head for 50 years, and me being the right age and at the right stage in my career, whatever, that I made sense, you know, all those things, you know, it's about all of that, you know. If I was in between ages for the characters in this and I saw that this was made, I'd be like, oh, how annoying, they're making a movie
Right.
about my hometown and I'm not right for it, you know. So it's a combination of all that luck and timing, but it's a good feeling.
Is the rumor true that Ken just basically Googled Belfast actor and your name just happened to pop up?
It is true, yeah. My whole, you know, aim in life is to never get outside that sort of top 3 famous Belfast actors list, because
Are there
I think
rankings that move around? Do you like check the current rankings day by day?
yeah, it's usually, you know, between Liam Neeson and me hopping back and forth depending on what releases we have, you know. But if I drop out of that top 3, I'm screwed, because that is how they cast movies. You know.
Is it poor form or a weird thing to ask a director like why you cast me? What did you see in me? What did you want for me? Is that
Not for me? It's the sort of question I ask every single director. Particularly for someone like Ken, because when I was said like he's making a film called Belfast, he'd love you to do it. We're going to send you a script tonight. Read it as fast as you can. Whatever. I read it that night. Spoke to Ken the next day. Said yes immediately. And I, for that sort of thing, because it's kind of Branagh, and we're talking about, you know, an absolute legend in the industry and stuff. There is a part of you thinking like, is this some sort of mistake? Does he think I'm somebody else? And then, because it was really like he wants you to, you're the guy, like he's not talking to anyone else. Okay. And then I sort of read the script thinking, how small is this part going to be? I mean, this is going to be
the next thing, right? Yeah.
You know, and by the way, would have been fine with that.
Sure.
And then realized how big it was and went, Jesus, right, okay, this is serious. And then to my utter amazement, Ken had seen everything I'd ever done. And I mean, small stuff that, you know, you probably haven't even seen, like everything. And still wanted me after seeing them all that stuff. So I was amazed by the whole thing, but thank God he did.
I talked to your buddy Caitriona Balfe on the podcast pretty recently. I asked her a version of this that I'll ask you. As people know by now, I'm sure this is obviously a very personal story for Ken and based on his own life growing up, his parents. When you're approaching the father character, is it a blend of his dad, what's in the script, your own father, and where they all meet? Give me a sense of sort of that kind of magical blend.
Yeah, I think it ends up being, a sort of an Irish stew of different influences. But it really does essentially boiled. I've got to get off cooking analogies, but it does boil down to
you've got 3 more minutes waiting for you. You're really
the very root of that stew is the script. That is all we have to go on to begin with, and then everything's built around that and your own influences. And certainly my dad was an influence on the character I played, and his dad before him, and everything I knew about. I come from a long line of men from Belfast, so I have a lot to mine there. And then it's the access to Ken to be able to ask him what his father would have, how he would have responded in this situation. But then the great thing about it, and I'm sure Caitriona said the same, was that Ken was never trying to sort of iron fist us into kind of like, this is who my parents were, you must act like this. It was very much giving us the freedom to do what we wanted to with it. And that is a massive thing, Josh. Like, that is so huge as an actor. Like, it's all you're looking for, really, I believe, is to feel that you're trusted. And with that trust, you gain a confidence and a freedom that makes doing your job so much easier. Like, it's night and day between. I've been involved in stuff where I have felt the opposite of that. I felt that there's lots of people whispering behind, thinking they made a bad decision and I shouldn't be there. And it is paralyzing. That experience, truly paralyzing. And
I was going to say, I would imagine it's because that version of it that you didn't have is like you're chasing something unattainable, a vision in someone else's brain that can't be communicated. And at least in this kind of collaborative relationship, you're a part of the process as opposed to like guessing at what someone wants and isn't seeing.
Exactly. I think you said it well, like fighting against something, or fighting against an opinion of a director, fighting against a script, fighting against what the character's doing, or how what your take on it can sometimes be very different to the filmmaker's take, even though that's not what seemed to be before you started shooting,
right,
and stuff. But it was just very cohesive, this whole thing. We all felt like we were in tune with each other at all times, the actors, all of them, and Ken. It was just always very like, there's zero friction on set at any given time, and that your whole experience and usually the outcome's going to be better if that's the case.
You mentioned your dad, and you've been frank about this and talking about my condolences, man. You lost your dad last year. I know. I mean, I know what that's like. I lost my dad the year before, and it's a sea change. Needless to say, I'm curious in talking about him in this process. Has it been cathartic? Has it been helpful, or it could go the other way, I suppose? But clearly, it's helping you in some way.
Yeah, I think it has been. I've probably stopped crying during Q&As so much now. When we first took it to Telluride, and we got such an unbelievable initial response to the film, and it was just Ken and I then. Caitriona had just had her baby, and Kieran and Judy hadn't traveled over yet, and Jude wasn't around. It was just the two of us, and we had a lot of between Ken and I, we both cried at every single Q&A we did. But often, for me, it was almost always, related to Dad and the pain of him not being able to see this film, but also the comfort of knowing that I was making it. I was making it with the people I was making it with, and all the hope that he would have had and that he did have for that. Yeah, I definitely think it's been cathartic, and in a way helpful to be bringing this film of all films out and to be talking about it so much in the passing months after we've lost him. But as well as anyone, the grieving process is unpredictable.
Yeah.
And I've been through. I lost my mum when I was young, and I've been through it before. But I have a different age and stage, and a father myself, obviously now, and it changes everything. Also because of the circumstances of COVID, and I hadn't seen my dad since Christmas 2019 because of restrictions, and we haven't been able to, we haven't had a funeral for my dad yet.
Yeah.
We're coming on. We're 10 months exactly now. So it's difficult to sort of contextualize how I'm dealing with it or what it is, but I think it's probably only been a good thing that I'm able to talk about a movie that would be so close to my dad because of where he was from and who he was, but also have that movie have the response to that movie. If I was sitting doing some movie that in the passing months and year after his death, that I was having to front up and do press all the time for something that was getting destroyed and had no significant meaning to him, it would be a very different story.
Sure. Well, let's talk about some of your lovely co-stars, because you were gifted with an amazing ensemble here. You've mentioned them all already. Anybody that knows me knows I positively adore Caitriona Balfe. She's the best. Yeah. Surprised to hear when I was researching today that you got your paths never crossed. You didn't get that Outlander audition, man? You weren't in the top 3 there?
No, I was. They typed in top 3 Scottish famous actors, I think, for that one, and Sam's probably up there. Yep. Besides Sean Connery somewhere, who was too old at the time at the beginning of that.
It would have been a choice. It would have been interesting. Yeah. An 80-year-old Sean Connery.
Yeah. Don't kill me. I've yet to see Outlander 2. I've never seen it. So I feel bad. Caitriona had never seen The Fall until we were shooting, so we're not big fans of each other's work. But if the only thing, I obviously will see some of Caitriona's work, but in a lovely way, all I know of Caitriona Balfe as an actor is in Belfast, where she gives one of the most stunning performances I've seen. So for my money, she's like the best actor in the world. But yeah, she was just, what can I say about Caitriona? I mean, she's a powerhouse, she is, but she brings such a lightness in her human interaction in the way she is naturally, but then has this absolute steeliness and grit.
Yes.
That she can just switch to, and you can become fearful of her very quickly. And that is a massive gain doing this for a living. For her to have that in her armory is incredible. And I've said this before, but if I could do every job with Caitriona Balfe, my career would be, I'd be really happy. And I feel like the work would always be good and would always have a good time, But it's incredible. We do have a very similar background, and we both are people from the same part of the world, a tiny part of the world, who went off and were modeling in mostly in New York, and for pretty much at the same time. Maybe she was 2 years ahead of me, probably. We did meet at TIFF. We met at TIFF about 3 years ago. We both had different films there, and we were introduced very quickly. And I remember thinking, God, she's tall, and I couldn't work with her based on her height. Not that I'm short, but she's very tall.
No, it's annoying.
Big heel and everything. And I was so wrong, But
well, it's big of you to look past that. Impediment.
That was obviously when I heard it was going to be her. I was a bit tall. But we'll let her go. She's good at acting. But yeah, it's crazy. I remember hearing that there was a model from Monaghan who was had lots of similar friends to me in New York and stuff, and I sort of just didn't believe it, and for whatever reason we never crossed paths.
And which of the 3 50 Shades films is Judi Dench's favorite? Did she tell you how she ranks them?
She liked Freed because she just said she was happy it was over.
I mean, by all accounts, I've only talked to Judi Dench, I think, once in my illustrious career, and it was very briefly. But by all accounts, she's the best. She's like just disarms you and is just like comes to play.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Those two things are perfectly put, and it's really lovely as an actor. I was not a young actor anymore, but I'm younger than Judy. To have someone like that, someone so iconic, to see the way she approaches it, which is to, have done all the work but leave it behind and be totally relaxed on set. We're all shitting ourselves to a point, obviously, anyway. But trying to keep yourself as relaxed as possible. It's much easier to act if you're relaxed. And to see someone like Judy being like that and be in the middle of a story when someone shouts turnover, and to then fall in line beautifully between action and cut, and then as soon as you hear cut, go back to telling her story. It's like that is 99% of actors I work with are like that. But sometimes you'll see someone who has quite a more of a methodical approach, maybe,
Right.
And to the point where you're going, should I be banging my head against the wall like that and making those noises? Will that help me? And then you see someone who's not doing that, who's of that caliber, and you think, no, it's okay. What works for me seems to work, and it's working for her, and we're all good.
Let's talk about something that's important to me, and I have a feeling it's very important to you: saving money. Our sponsor on Happy Sad Confused this week is RocketMoney, a service I've found very useful. It's a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps you lower your bills all in one place. Since signing up for RocketMoney, guys, I have discovered so much unwanted money pouring out of my bank account into subscriptions that I frankly forgot I was even using, overpaying for subscriptions. It's a real thing. Most people think they're spending $80 on their subscriptions, when in reality the number is closer to $200. When you're signed up for so many things, and I know I am, like streaming services you use to watch just that one show, or free trials for a delivery that you don't use anymore, it is so easy to lose track of what you're paying for. That's why RocketMoney is so important and can save you money on day one. Stop wasting money on things you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and manage your money the easy way by going to rocketmoney.com/HSC. That's rocketmoney.com/HSC. rocketmoney.com/HSC. Let me set up a scenario for you that is probably all too familiar. You're on the hunt for a new doctor. You're asking your friends, your family for the recommendations. You're looking for a doctor who actually gets you, who listens to you, who makes you feel super comfortable. And after all the friends and family and the talking and the recommendations, you found him. You found the one doctor for you. So you call their office and they have an appointment. All right, you're in business. And then the receptionist tells you the news. Your perfect doctor doesn't take your insurance. It's time to head over to ZocDoc, my friends, to find and book the doctor who is right for you, and yes, actually takes your insurance. ZocDoc is a free app where you can find amazing doctors and book appointments online. It is so easy. We're talking about booking appointments with thousands of top-rated, patient-reviewed doctors and specialists. You can filter specifically for ones who take your insurance, are located near you, and treat almost any condition you are searching for. These docs all have verified reviews from, yes, actual real patients, not bots. So go to ZocDoc.com/happysad and download the ZocDoc app for free. Then find and book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/happysad. ZocDoc.com/happysad.
Now, not to say that every person's life and childhood is worthy of a film, but I'm curious, if you look back at your own childhood, what genre of film is the Jamie Dornan adolescent story? Is it comedy? Is it horror? Is it an erotic thriller? What are we looking at?
I think it's probably some kind of family comedy. it's probably, my dad was a huge Steve Martin fan, and the only time we went to cinema trips as a family was exclusively to see Steve Martin movies. So in my head, it's like a sort of family drama with Steve Martin type vibe, like a parenthood type thing where I actually remember watching Parenthood a lot as a kid and going to see it in cinema. And one of the kids, I think I'm right in saying he was asthmatic, and I was asthmatic, and I still am asthmatic. And I remember sort of really identifying with him. And there's another kid who was really, he used to like put a bucket over his head and bash it against the wall and stuff. And I think I had a bit of that sort of hyper in it. I was always very hyper as a kid, but well behaved, I think. But like I had a lot of energy. Still, I have a lot of energy, and I'm not good with being still. So I think it was probably, I'm going to say like a Steve Martin family comedy type vibe.
Well, it's good to know that you had good taste running in your blood from the start, and that gives us a good segue into. I do want to talk a little bit about formative films for us, and this wasn't necessarily one you saw as an adolescent, but it is a comedy. And when I asked you for a comfort movie, I don't know what's in the air, by the way, Jamie, but we are on an Adam McKay kick. I just spoke. Who was the actor that just chose? The most recent one, not, oh my God, I'm totally blanking. Not Vice, it was The Big Short. Someone chose The Big Short. It'll come to me. But anyway, you chose a different Adam McKay film, more traditional comedic variety of Adam McKay. Tell us what you chose and why.
I chose Anchorman because I think if you really like tallied it up, it's probably the film I've seen most in my life. Which is saying something, because it was probably, I was in my 20s when it was made. It was just at a particular time in London when I hadn't just moved to London, but I'd been in London a while, and that had come out and it had a big impact on me, and I still think it's kind of perfect. But there was a particular time I put it on every day. I mean, I really did, and it's like it became like a language, and you could communicate through quotes from Anchorman.
Right.
But remember, there's a particularly real like sweet spot of that where you'd meet people in wherever you were in the world, and something would happen, and someone would say, "Hey, lady in the red hat," or something, or like, "Milk was a bad choice," or just some unbelievable line from that movie, and then you're in. It was like a conversation starter, and there's so much collective love for that film, and and then everyone had an opinion on the sort of lost movie that they made up out of outtakes and stuff that
Right.
I got hands on once, and then should there be an Anchorman 2 and all of that, and once there was that, did we think that they should have made that, all of that stuff around that movie. So for me, I would still, if it's a bit of a go-to for me, if I just don't know what I want to watch, I'm not in the mood to tackle anything new and not in the mood to tackle anything heavy, I will take it on. You're also getting those guys in their absolute pomp. Not that they're not still doing brilliant work. In fact,
Sure.
we just finished The Shrink Next Door, which has obviously
Yep.
Will Ferrell and Paul Rudd in it, who are both in Anchorman. But it feels like Anchorman just came at a time when they were just every beat they did was hilarious,
Well, I think it's interesting because when you look back, I think it was a big shift for Rudd. Certainly that started like a run of comedy for him, but for Ferrell, and you'll find no bigger fan of Will Ferrell. He just makes me laugh. He's just like the funniest human on the planet. And his specialty, I would argue, is the confident idiot. And there's no greater just like bombastic idiot than Ron Burgundy. It is just apex Will Ferrell.
Totally. It was apex Will Ferrell, and also Christina Applegate. Oh my God! Like for me, her performance is just like, I would say that the casting in general in that film is so perfect, but she has so many moments with Will Ferrell, as we've said before, in his absolute pomp, where my takeaway is what she's doing often.
And she's
reacting to some of that ridiculousness that he's doing is just priceless, and I love her for that. And I just think the collective of those actors, of the news team, like we didn't know that much about Steve Carell then.
No, sure. And Brick. Oh my God, Brick's an all-timer.
Brick is that what like, you know, genius the way he formed that character. You know, totally. I mean, how many quotes of Brick do we have? You know, it's incredible.
Is there one scene? It's hard to pick because there are dozens in there. Is there one scene that sticks out for you?
It's very hard to look past the, you know, 60% of the time it works every time scene with the cologne and Paul Rudd in that. I think that's probably my favorite moment. I love the fight, the initial fight when Vince Vaughn and the take your mother out for a nice seafood dinner. Just you can tell those guys are just riffing, and I've seen stuff where behind the scenes stuff where Adam McKay is literally shouting out lines to them, and they're just and that it's amazing to see that and just aid them not to crack up when they hear those lines and still deliver them the way they do. I experienced that a bit when we did Barb and Star.
Sure.
Go to Vista Del Mar, which Will Ferrell produced and Adam McKay produced. And Josh Greenbaum, our director, now who's an absolute legend. We did a bit of that. We did a lot of improv in that movie, as you can probably tell. And we did scenes like that where Josh was just shouting out stuff, and half the battle was just like
taking it in for a second and then like refocusing.
Literally, don't make eyes with Kristen and Annie. Just don't fucking do not catch their eye right now. Let's just try to take it on and then breathe and then get that line out if you can. There was a lot of that, so I'm so lucky. I feel that I've got to experience a sense of what that is, and it's an amazing feeling.
I got a chance finally to catch up with Kristen after a long while and profess my love for that film. You know how obsessed I am with it. So that must, I mean, now knowing how much you revere that kind of comedy and that, and Anchorman in particular, must feel all the more satisfying that you're in one of those movies now. You get that sense already that this has become an instant cult classic. Yeah.
And I'm just, trying not to text Kristen and Annie every day to tell them to write a sequel. That reminds me, I need to text them to tell them to write a sequel. We did a Q&A virtually, of course, at some point when Barb and Star came out, and Will calling him Will, I literally haven't met the guy, but Will Ferrell compared it. And I really had a moment of going this is nuts. This is nuts also as my first comedy to be surrounded by such esteemed company and such titans and geniuses of comedy. And I remember thinking that a tactic of mine with that interview should be not to speak.
Don't screw it up for you in the future. Just
do not speak. Blame a dodgy Wi-Fi connection or something, or just go, guys. I'm sorry, I can't hear you, but you guys are great. But because I just thought, oh my God, it's one thing, I had time with Kristen and Annie to build a relationship with them where they let me in, and they let me in really quickly, thankfully, and they found me funny, and I find them obviously hilarious. But suddenly Will Ferrell was in this thing, and I was like, oh shit, right, he's not gonna. I'm not gonna try to make him laugh, But what a treat, and to have experienced that at that level with those people, and I really do truly hope we get to make more of those movies. They're so fun.
I really hope so as well. Just for the record, my brain freeze I want to account for. It was John Cena of all people that chose The Big Short as his comfort movie.
Oh, really?
Kind of fascinating, right?
Yeah.
So I'm curious. Okay, so going back career-wise, we're not going to detail every facet of the illustrious modeling career, but I'm curious, once you segue out of modeling into acting, and I think Marie Antoinette was the debut, correct? Yeah. So a hell of a debut, obviously, with Sofia Coppola. I'm just curious, do you remember in those early years, were there good aspects of modeling, of technique, of knowing your own body, et cetera, that you could apply to acting, or was there more baggage you had to kind of unlearn?
I think It's not like well, listen, I'll say this. It's not like I never acted. I did loads of drama at school. I used to do youth theatre back in Belfast. So it had been something that I had within me anyway, and experience of. I do think there's something really useful about being in front of any sort of camera. Particularly, I feel, for film and television acting, a lot of it is a bit of a dance with the camera sometimes, and a movement. And it's not a oh, if I move here to this is my good side, I'm going to look better. But like it's almost the other way. It's almost like a comfortableness that you get from being in front of the camera, where it's not weird. Particularly close-up stuff, you're often when you're doing photo shoots and the camera's right in your face, and it's actually just being comfortable with that, and
Right.
not like seizing up, and
Yes.
and that it's weird technique, like stuff like that is important, because sometimes acting is a funny game, and you can turn up on set, and I've seen this where directors have loved like an audition tape or whatever it is, and then for someone who's like a day player and they're coming in doing a day, and then on set there's something happens to them and they freak out, and they're suddenly just really nervous and seemingly unprepared, even though it's usually like a nerve thing. So actually, that understanding of a camera and being okay with something that is capturing you, I think is a help. But then
Yeah.
on the other side, you have the whole stigma attached to this guy got his photograph taken for a living, so he can't act. Which you are battling, and
Yeah.
battling, and particularly in those early years. But not so much. I feel like I battled more with that in the UK, and I think in the States. And the first time I came to LA, they're cooler about it. It's more. That's more of a. It's more of a accepted pathway in than in UK, where it's all about
How much time you spent on the boards, et cetera, and in
all
RADA.
that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, as people probably know by now, I'm always fascinated by this, by the early friend groups and the groups that like end up succeeding. It seems like you were hanging out with like every superhero that's now working. Basically, it's kind of insane.
Yeah.
I actually just did the podcast yesterday with Andrew Garfield for one, and I know you were buddies with Redmayne and Pattinson. I'm just curious, like in that group, give me a sense of the dynamics. I'm just curious, like, was there one that was like, okay, this is the one, this guy in the group is going to be the big star? Like, was there an internal kind of like acknowledgement of who was going to go where?
Yeah, that was Garfield. Yeah, that was Garfield. We were always. I remember when I'll never forget the night I met Andrew. I hadn't seen any of his work at that. We were very young, and I'm a year older than Garth. But it was I think it was probably, I met Eddie 2005, and I met Garth I think later that year, maybe 2006. And I hadn't seen, had Boy A came out? I'm not sure if it came out yet, but maybe it had, and I sort of missed it, whatever. But I remember that night I was with Eddie and a guy called Tom Sturridge, who's a good friend of ours,
Sure.
and a few other guys and girls. And Garth was going to come and meet us, and they were talking about him in this way of, Marlon Brando's about to, young Marlon Brando's about to join us, grace us with his presence. That was kind of the way it was, a bit like, this guy's such an actor and we're not really. So I remember he came with this sort of tag of like, this guy's unbelievable, and he's going to really, make stuff happen. And instantly just a total goofball, accessible, slightly ridiculous person, and
Right.
but like an unbelievable talent. And I mean, Garth and I have our own language. I mean, we genuinely talk to each other that if you're with us, and it's probably quite painful to be around. I think James Corden realized that when we had us both on the show a couple of months ago. We just bring out all our silliness in each other, and I love it. But I think he just seemed like the sure bet that was just going to make stuff happen and go on and do good things. And like, it took a while for all of us to find sort of the right. Everyone has their own path in this, and but find the right thing that would break you or whatever it is, and but in a weird way, it kind of did. it has at this point worked out for all of us, and I know that that shouldn't have been the case in a way. Like we shouldn't have all, we've all been in big franchises, and it's kind of mad now when I think back to like being in LA in like 2008, and we sincerely weren't making progress. That's really why particularly wasn't. But we were there for a few months together where nothing was happening.
Right.
Nothing, so, and there was no, it wasn't the writer's strike, there wasn't a pandemic.
No excuses, just it's a hard pass on Garfield.
Yeah, totally. No, it was mad, but
Happy, sad, confused fans, if you're like me, you spend all of your time on the internet, on your computer, on your phone, you feel exposed, unless, that is, you have something like the best VPN in the business, in the known universe. I use NordVPN. Go to nordvpn.com/happysad and get in on it. A 30-day money-back guarantee is available to you right now for being a happy, sad, confused fan, listener, and viewer. And you want that security if you're going to be out on the World Wide Web, don't you, folks? You want that password manager. You want that data breach scanner. You want to feel secure when you're on a Wi-Fi network, especially if you're using free public Wi-Fi, as we often do. And frankly, that's what criminals feast on, to intercept your data. The bad guys are listening. They are waiting. You need the best VPN in the business to keep you safe, to keep you secure. This is an easy-to-use product. nordvpn.com/happysad. I highly recommend it for any happy, sad, confused listener, viewer, and fan. nordvpn.com/happysad.
So, I joked about this. You've had your billion-dollar franchise, but you haven't had your superhero role, which is kind of unusual in this day and age for someone that of your ilk that would seemingly have that. Mm-hmm. Is there one that like you desperately wanted? Is there one audition that jumps out at you? You must have done a dozen superhero auditions, I gotta think.
I sort of haven't. I think almost. I think the only one I've actually auditioned for was Superman. That was way back when. That's when Henry Cavill got cast. That's probably 12 years ago or something. More? You tell me. I don't know.
Did you get the suit on? Did you feel like you were actually in the running?
No, but I wore my own suit there. Was that a mistake?
Your underoos, that might have been a bad call, man.
Yeah, they were Superman pajamas. They weren't actually like an actual suit. No, I remember, early audition for that. I got nowhere near putting the suit on. And I actually don't think I've been, I've had meetings with heads of studios that do those things, and we talked about it, but I never got deep into any audition process for any of them back in the day. And I feel like now, the last few ones, I wouldn't say there was a big audition process for, too many of, I'm too old now for Spider-Man. I remember I did a screen test for Uncharted years ago.
Oh, sure.
Years ago, when it was they were going to make it with a different director and everything, and then and it went well, and there was a point where it looked like maybe I was doing it or whatever, and then it all went quiet, went away, and the director fell off and blah blah. And then when I heard they were going to make it again, I was like, "Oh, great!" And oh no, you're far too old now.
Tom Holland, wait, he could be
Tom Holland is half your age, is doing it. A legitimate movie star, and I was like, "All right, okay, well, listen, that ship sailed." But I wouldn't pin like one that I prefer to do. If something came along, I'm interested in that world, but I'm also really happy where I am, and they're probably not looking at the sort of performance of Belfast and the quietness of that sort of film and thinking, let's shove a cape on that guy and throw him up into a harness. But who knows?
In a different respect, and I'm always fascinated by the reaction I get from different actors when I bring up the name Bond. Some of them clam up. Some of them are like, I'm not going to say a fucking word to you. I don't want to just jeopardize any chance. And some are like, yeah, that would be amazing. Where do you fall? Like, you must have daydreamed. You've been on those lists, whether it's real or not. It must be just flattering beyond words to even be on a list for like the ultimate cool hero.
Yeah, I think it's flattering to be on a list, sure. But we're all on a list, we're all on the list. If you're a certain age, a certain type, whatever, you're kind of on there. There's been times I've been close to the top of that list, and there's times I've been close to what might be the bottom of an endless list. That really does work with whoever has a movie that people are talking about or TV show that people are talking about.
Right.
You're higher up that list, or then you get people just on it all the time. Like, I know Tom Hardy's forever on it. Killian is forever on it. Yeah, it's cool. I like it. It's something that I don't give any thought to be honest. And if it came along, yeah, I mean, it would be certainly something to think about. But I don't think about it until it's a vague reality.
Right. I'm curious. Okay, so like, you're an intelligent man, Mr. Dornan. When 50 Shades, when your franchise, your potential ginormous franchise, which indeed became a ginormous billion-dollar franchise, came around, you knew the baggage that was going to be there, for good or for bad. You knew there was a built-in audience, and it was probably going to do huge. It was also going to probably, and indeed was, savaged by a lot of critics.
Yeah.
Was there a tremendous amount of ambivalence? Like, were people around you, were your friends and family and agents all like, you got to do this if the opportunity comes, or was it a big kind of debate within your circle?
It wasn't an instant yes, by any means. For all of the reasons you've just said, it needed to be talked through. I sought counsel from friends, family, a lot of actors.
What did Garfield say? Let's go down the list. What did Redmayne say?
He was too busy just swinging around New York, I think, at that time with his little web hand. But it's nice to have people like that close in your life who will have an opinion and one that I think is expert almost. I sort of nearly did it and then didn't get it.
Right.
And I've said this before, that when I didn't get it, I felt a bit of relief, because I was like, Jesus, that guy, poor guy, he's going to get wrecked here. And then he maybe felt the same. And then suddenly there it was, and but with way less time to make a decision.
Yeah.
I got cast 5 weeks before we started shooting, and my wife was 34 weeks pregnant, and we had a lot of massive decisions to make very quickly. It was a crazy time now when I think about it. But yeah, you're right. Look, I knew because I'd thought about it before when I nearly got it the first time when Charlie got it. I knew that it came with all that baggage, as you say, and that the reality was it was going to make a ton of money and fans were going to love it and the critics were going to despise it, because that's exactly what happened with the books, and that's what we were making. We weren't going, well, the books are a bit of a template, but we're going to do this whole different thing and change a lot of stuff about the book. We were staying very truthful to the books, so we knew what that was going to be. But I think movies that are made for the fans, that the fans love, can only be seen as a success, really, and I'm really grateful that both Dakota and I have, despite some pretty rough stuff said about us, probably particularly me, we've managed to come out and we're still making work that people really like. And I've had some of those sort of said critics do a bit of a 180, and particularly in the last few weeks, because I've had this show in the UK that's come out and been a massive success called The Tourist that will come to the States pretty soon. And I had a nice moment where you were talking about like friends and family saying stuff and people say it's a mistake. When I got cast, in 50 Shades. The Fall had come out, got a great reception, been nominated for a BAFTA, all this great stuff had happened. And then they announced out of 50 Shades. There's a journalist in The Guardian, was a big paper in the UK, called Lucy Mangan, who wrote a whole article about what a terrible career choice I'd made. This before it even shot the thing. I'm there thinking, Jesus, right, okay, so that's the general vibe, you know. Anyway, Lucy Mangan wrote a piece last week about how it's all sort of, not that she got it wrong or whatever, but like, you know, because of Belfast and The Tourist,
Sure.
she liked them both, and maybe, you know, maybe it wasn't all the stupidest move in the world and blah, blah, blah. Which I did have a little, like, some nice little moment reading that article, I have to say. Because as much as you think you don't care, you kind of do. You know, you kind of do care.
Well, and you feel it. I'm sure you feel it, whether you're actively seeking out the reviews or not. You feel the general.
Yeah, well, I went through a phase of really actively seeking them out. And actually, I once found this thing where someone had put like all the worst things said about me from the first 50 Shades movie into like a neat little like Instagram post.
Oh, how convenient. Just
what am I doing? Like what? And I would look at it all the time. You know, I agreed with a lot of it. That's a sad thing.
It occurs to me, I'm sitting here and I've got my, I think I told you this last time you were on the show when you were on Stir Crazy. I had, this is the Dakota Johnson bee in the butt question mug in her honor.
Did you? I think you told me you're going to send me one. Did you? No.
I'll get you one. You've earned it. You've earned it.
Are they big sellers?
We haven't sold them to. This is a hot commodity just for friends and family. I'll get you one. No, but I'm so happy for both of you guys. I feel like you both obviously like. You had the right attitude. That self-deprecating humor probably got you through a lot of it, and I'm so happy for both of you. I saw an interview you did with your buddy Eddie Redmayne, I think about a year ago, and you talked about how it's like dangerous to have a plan, right, as an actor. I mean, that being said, I look at the last few years as you start to do stuff after the 50 Shades movies, and it does feel like there's some kind of plan in place, whether it's, you know, just associating with like great actors like Killian, with Dinklage, doing smaller, cool work like A Private War. Like, I mean, what was in your head like that coming off of that? Was there a sense of like what I need to kind of show people I can do outside of something like that?
Yeah, I think you're right. Like, I think it's like, it's still really hard to plan. It's almost like it's hard to plan it in a, like, particularly having 3 kids, having to be like, right, I love this job, but it's 6 months and it's in Timbuktu. You know, I'm going like, Jesus, it's so hard to plan ahead. And so there's a sense of that. And actually planning the actual work is easier when you have a choice, I've got to say. And I've been lucky now for 8 years or whatever. I've had a bit of a choice of the work I do. And yeah, of course, there's a bit, it's often just like, what am I drawn to? And maybe it is, there's a sort of natural sense of like, well, I've just done something like this and I feel like I haven't really shown this side of myself, but I love this script. So it's not just, I'm not doing it just to show that side of myself. I really want to do it. And by having that choice, I've been able to make those decisions. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah, there's probably a bit of rebuilding again, based on what I'm talking about, like Lucy Mangan's article, and a bit of like trying to prove to people that I'm more than they think I am, if that's all they've seen, those films and stuff. And I've been working away at that, and you know, I think I've made good strides in that in the last 6 months particularly.
It seems like that's the constant for most any actor, and certainly in your case, I mean, this is the recurring theme. You talk about the early, as you segued from modeling into acting. I mean, it's just the age-old story. It's just like they remember the last role or two, and you just got to keep showing them there's more to me than that. Absolutely,
and there's a challenge in that I really love, and I've always loved a challenge, and I will always seek out a challenge. So I'm up for it. I'm totally up for it, and it's just a thing. There's just yes, you have a different reason for every job you do, and I feel like the more you're working, the more consistently your work is received well. A plan is slightly more easier to form, but it's still essentially overall hard to have a firm plan with what's going to happen.
I'll end with this. I asked the followers of Happy Sad Confused for some questions. I have one here from Kimberly Hoover, who wanted to know if you hadn't become an actor, what career you would have pursued? Is there one that jumps out?
I would have tried to do something in sport. I've always loved sport. Have been very sporty. I think about sport a lot. I'm thinking about sport right now. I've been thinking about sport for the entire podcast.
Wow, rude.
Yeah.
Biscuits and sport. Oh, there he goes. He's gone. I see his brain literally floating away.
But yeah, I think a lot, like I was one of those kids who watched Jerry Maguire and thought, yeah, I'm going to do that. But so it would have been maybe something in sports, but I think the reality is it's sort of harder to get into than people think, sport. Not as hard as acting to get into, but like, I probably would have become like an estate agent or something, or a realtor, as you say, because where I came from, you could drop out of university or not go to university at all and still do that to an extent, and then work your way up without a degree or whatever. And I felt that's probably the reality of where I was headed. Yeah.
Look, I mean, it's good.
I could have been going around, I love it when, you've been shown a house and they bring you into the bathroom and say, and this is the bathroom.
You're like, yeah, I've been in the bathroom before, I know.
Yeah, exactly. And they're cupboards. Yep. Yeah. I'm not saying that's all there is to that job, but there's a lot of it is that, and I've always makes me laugh.
Wow, you've just been canceled by the real estate industry. You've lost that segment of I hope there's not a big Academy demo that also sells real estate, because you just fucked yourself, my friend.
I'm worried there is.
Congratulations on all your success, buddy. You are now a happy, sad, confused veteran at long last, long overdue. No, truly. I mean, in all earnestness, I love your work, and you're a good one, man. And congratulations on BARB and Star yet again, because I'll never stop congratulating you on that. And BELFAST, if you guys have not checked it out yet, what are you doing with your lives? This is pure light and joy in a dark universe. You need this in your lives, guys. Buddy, thanks for your time.
Thanks, Josh. Cheers, buddy. I appreciate it.
And so ends another edition of Happy, Sad, Confused. Remember to review, rate, and subscribe to this show on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. I'm a big podcast person. I'm Daisy Ridley, and I definitely wasn't pressured to do this by Josh.